So we're live. We have officially made it to the first episode of our brand new podcast, our brand new baby.
Our brand new baby.
Took us a minute to get here. We had just a few technical difficulties along
Just
the way.
a few for sure.
But we made it. So if you guys are watching us on YouTube, hello. You can see what we're up to, a little background and setup. And if you are listening to us on whatever streaming service you're listening to us on, hi, welcome.
Welcome, everybody.
So I guess we should start off this by firstly talking about like who we are, because not everybody knows who we are. So if you don't know, we're a long distance relationship couple from Australia and the US. And this is, as we said, our brand new podcast, episode 1 of the One Day podcast. So for the first episode, we kind of decided that it would probably be best if we just did a bit of a get to know us type of deal, you know, like the first day of school where you have to go around the room, introduce yourselves, tell everybody your name, where you're from, what you're about. So that's pretty much what this episode today is going to be. It's just like a little bit of a get to know us and our story, and just like a meeting us kind of thing,
right,
because we know not everybody knows who we are. So I guess we should start. You want to go first?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so my name is Allan. I am a father. I'm a dad. I'm a fiance, and I'm a fashion designer and content creator. And I live in New York, or New U.S. Oh, yeah, I am 39 years old.
39.
Yep.
So that means that there is a 10-year age difference between us.
Yeah.
If anybody didn't know, yes, there is a 10-year age difference between us. You're 81, I'm 91.
Yep.
Yeah. So my name is Leizel. I am 30 years old. I just turned 30 at the beginning of the year, so that's why I'm 30, you're 39, you're going to be turning 40, entering into your into the new decade of your 40s. I probably shouldn't touch too much on that, but
we're still in our 30s.
Right. This is the only time where we get to be in our 30s, like together, like in the same.
Right. Let me enjoy my last, year of my 30s. So.
Right. Yeah. So as I said, 30 years old, from Australia, born and raised, and I am a content creator. If you guys don't know me, I do have a YouTube channel where I like to create content, and that's what I do. So yeah, that's a little bit about us. I guess you guys will learn more about us over time, but those are just like the little surface facts.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, we've been together, 2 years? 2 years.
We've been together for 2 years and engaged for 1.
For 1. And it's been, a year since I haven't seen my fiance.
Yes, we have officially been apart for 1 year. March, actually, yeah.
Yeah, last year.
The beginning of March. Since the pandemic popped off. We were really lucky to be able to see each other.
Super
then,
lucky.
Yeah.
It was so close, too. Like, good thing we decided to book it at that time. And
I know.
I was there at that time. And as soon as I came back, the whole world shut down.
It was pretty much, I remember even the week before you got here, before you were due to fly out, that's when the news started really ramping up about like COVID is spreading.
Right.
The pandemic is getting really bad. And we had even thought like, oh, should we like postpone the trip, or should we continue on with seeing each other? But I think both of us kind of had a bit of an idea like it might be a while till we get to see each other if we don't take advantage of this.
For your side, you thought, you wanted to take advantage of it. I had the ring with me. So I wanted to go. I had no choice. I'm like, no, this is my only chance. I'm going to go there, propose to her. So it's like, no. And she was telling me, maybe we should postpone this. And I'm like, nah, we shouldn't. Not at all.
Yeah,
I think
because
we
I
should
didn't
still
know.
go.
Mm.
And I was sick. COVID was going on in the beginning, and I lost my voice for like a week. Actually, I
Mm.
lost my voice even when I was there. My voice isn't even back.
Yeah, you were really
And
sick. I remember the week before, I was like, when we're talking on the phone, like, because obviously we talk on the
yeah.
phone, we FaceTime every day. I remember telling you, like, don't use your voice, like, just
Oh yeah,
stay
you're right.
quiet. Do you remember?
I
Yeah.
remember I didn't use my voice.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
it's a bit
I
difficult.
I drank every ginger, like
Uh-huh.
whatever remedy I
Mm.
can find, and it didn't help. I thought my voice wasn't gonna be back before before I flew out there, but
Yeah. Low key,
and
I was like, do you have
hmm
COVID? Because,
yeah, honestly, you said it first. I thought I had
uh-huh.
COVID too, and maybe
Mm.
it's a different strain, but I don't
I don't
know.
know.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't think it
know.
was COVID. I don't think it was, to be honest.
I don't know, like a laryngitis or something. I don't know. I lost my
Yeah.
voice. I remember sitting in the airplane having a mask on the whole flight, and I was so uncomfortable. Like,
Oh, flying out here.
it
Mm.
was so weird. I never really wore a mask for that long. It was like a 15, 16 hour. It was a long flight, 16 hour
Long
flight.
flight. Mm-hmm.
And, seeing people around, there was like maybe three of us that had a mask on at the time, but
Mm.
nobody else did. So
Yeah.
it was just
Crazy how
interesting.
times have changed.
And now it's just the norm. Everyone has a mask on over here in the
Yeah,
U.S.
well,
at
for
least.
you guys, yeah, over
Yeah.
here in Australia,
Hmm.
our situation is completely different. So for us, our country locked down straight away. I think like the week after you left back in March.
Literally the week. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of been, yeah, like nobody out, nobody in. I mean, people do come in, but we have a very strict quarantine system in place. And the only people who really do come back in are citizens or
Hmm.
permanent residents. It's not so much for tourists who just want to come and check things out. It's more about like citizens and residents who want to come back home, but
Right.
they have to go through a strict like mandatory hotel quarantine where you just get put into a hotel room for 14 days, and even if you don't have any symptoms, or you got to
Yeah.
stay in there. Mm.
2 weeks. Yeah, that's rough.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is how things are. That's why we haven't seen each other for a whole year,
Hmm.
because I mean, there are ways that we can,
Yeah.
but the process of doing it for us at this point in time, we've just made the decision that we weren't going to do that.
Hmm.
So I think
And
we're,
this
we're doing okay.
and this is why we resorted to doing podcasts
Right.
because
Yeah.
we used to have our schedule within every 3 months, 4 months we will see each other, and we would
Hmm.
do our vlogs, do our videos, and that's kind of what we set ourselves to do within the year. Like, we knew
Hmm.
when we were going to see each other and what we were going to film.
Yeah.
But I think this is the best, easiest way to engage and get everybody involved and have everybody see where we're coming from and meet us and get to know us more. So
Yeah, for sure. Which, if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, we do
yeah.
have a YouTube channel where we create content, and we mainly started it. Fun fact, it was actually Alan's idea to start the channel because, as I mentioned earlier, I do have a YouTube channel,
Yep.
but it was Alan's idea for us to start. I don't want to call it like a couples channel. It was more so for us to document our
Yep.
journey
Mm-hmm.
and a place to be able to keep our memories and also tell our story,
Right.
because I mean, long distance relationships, it's not that they're not very common. I think they're quite common. It's just nobody's really out there really sharing their story and talking about
Yeah.
like the ups and the downs,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not always sunshine and rainbows and happy days. Like there's hard, difficult days to it as well, but we
Right.
just thought it was a good idea for ourselves and potentially for the future, for future kids and babies, like to be able to be like,
Right.
look, this is how we met. This is
Exactly.
how your parents got together. Like you would not be here if it wasn't
Yeah, we
for all
flew
of
halfway
this.
around the world to see each other just to
Yeah.
get to know each other. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So, with that being said, I guess we should probably talk about the story on how we met. You
Oh,
want to talk
before
about
we
that?
get to that, we
Mm.
named the
Oh,
podcast
yeah.
One Day.
Yeah.
You should
The
explain that
reason
to them.
why. The thing that comes to mind, like, when you think of that phrase, it's just, it's, it sounds really corny, but it's like a phrase of like hope and the light at the end of the tunnel for us in
Mm-hmm.
our relationship. It's a phrase that we used to say to each other all the time. Even before we met, it
Right.
was like, oh, we're going to meet one day. We're going to go there one day. We're going to go here one day. We're going to do this one day. I feel like in long distance relationships, it's very important to have goals to work towards. And that phrase is like the epitome of a goal for
Right.
us. So it only
Absolutely.
made sense when we were trying to
Yeah.
think of like, what would we call this podcast? I was like, well, one day is something that really reigns true with us. Like
Yeah.
that's a phrase that we've always used,
We
so it
definitely
was
use it
only
a lot.
fitting. Mhm.
And soon as we made our goals and started hitting some of those goals, we were
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, this really resonate. This phrase resonate to us. So it
Yeah.
makes sense to call it One Day.
It's not necessarily just about us as a partnership. I think as like
Right.
individual for your own personal goals
Right.
and aspirations as well, like to tell yourself like one day I'm going to achieve this, one day I want to do
Right.
this. So I feel in this relationship being that we've grown and evolved throughout time our
Mm-hmm.
time of being together, it's yeah, it's definitely a phrase that has
Mm-hmm.
stuck, and it just made sense for us to use that as the name for our podcast.
Yeah, and it definitely relates to everybody. Like you
Yeah.
said, that's why it's to me it's really powerful because everyone could
Mhm.
say, "Hey, one day I'm going to do this." And I think with us, what helps us get to where we want to be is we actually plan. We have a goal and we plan to get
Yeah.
there.
Mhm.
So that's why this phrase meant so much to us. So yep, that's why we named it One Day
Yeah.
Podcast.
That's it. And
Yep.
I think for why we started the podcast now, because as we mentioned, we did have a YouTube channel where
Mm-hmm.
we would document our journey, our trips to each other, all of that. Being that we haven't seen each other for a year, it's been a little bit difficult for us to create content at a distance. I mean, it's possible, but just with the ease of it all, being able to create this podcast, I feel like was a lot obviously easier, but it's a lot more
Mm-hmm.
fitting to our personalities as well. I feel like we are very chilled, like laid back people.
Right.
So to just be able to kind of sit here and chat and talk back and forth while we, in the process, give you guys advice and talk about our stories and share tips and all of that kind of thing. I feel like it was just more suited for us to kind of
Mm-hmm.
start a podcast as opposed to being so like scripted, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree. So I think for the people that don't know our story, it's very interesting. It's literally like a needle in a haystack kind of story.
Oh, yeah, it is.
It's insane because what I do for a living is I'm a fashion designer. So I'm literally sitting down every day in front of my laptop working, and what keeps me entertained is YouTube. So I will have my work at one side and YouTube on one side. And I don't never necessarily watch every day. I just listen to it to keep me entertained. And, you know, on YouTube, you have to be logged into your email and stuff like that. So you could
Your
watch,
account,
yeah, so you could watch the same, channels that you've been watching. And
your
there's
subscriptions,
all
all
the
of that.
subs, yep.
Mm.
And one day, for some reason, my I wasn't logged on to YouTube. And I literally was scrolling to see what's new, and I didn't see any related stuff that I would usually watch, but I stumbled upon Leizel's channel, and this is about 2016. So for those people that don't really knew us and like, oh, they just been together for 2 years and engaged. No, I've seen her channel since 2016. I've added her. It's been a minute,
It
you know.
has. And yeah, like you were saying, I think naturally, I know for me personally, even though I am on social media, I don't necessarily share things straight away live as they're happening. I
Right.
know with the culture of social media, it's like, like with IG stories, you take a photo and you post it straight away. But for me, I like to enjoy things for myself and take them in for my own personal
Mm-hmm.
experience before I share it with the world. So when it came to, even like meeting you or us getting together or you visiting me or even us getting engaged, I wasn't over here like,
Right.
oh, check this out, y'all. Like, look what just happened. Like, I just wanted
Yeah,
to enjoy things. So I
we
think
didn't
for a
let
lot of,
anyone know till we
yeah,
were engaged till like later on.
exactly. So I think for a lot of people, the outside looking in, for us to, I don't want to say announce because it's not like, but for us
Yeah.
to share our story and people be like, oh, okay, cool. Like she's in a relationship. They're in a relationship, a long distance relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
then for what seemed like in a few months time, like, oh damn, like they're already engaged already. Like they
Right.
just met.
Exactly.
They don't even know each other. But what people don't realize is that, yeah, what with social media, it's so you really can control the narrative. You can
You can
make,
definitely.
yeah, you can make things seem the way that you want them to seem.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, their perception is that they're long distance, they just met, then they got engaged. Oh my gosh, so quick.
Right.
But it's been a long time.
It's
Like
been
it
a
was like
while.
a
Yeah.
slow burn, I guess you could
Yeah.
call
I
it.
honestly like 2016. I added you, and then right after that,
Mm.
I went to some of your other social medias like Snapchat and Instagram. And even then, I didn't message you or anything. It's just I
Yeah.
was watching your channel. Then
Hmm.
for some reason, I think the trip that you went to Melbourne kind of caught my attention.
Yeah,
That's why
that
I was
was
like,
so
oh
long
wow,
ago
let
too.
me comment on your Snapchat. I was like, I saw a Biggie mural, and I was like,
Hmm.
you guys have Biggie in Australia? I was so oblivious to like other people's
Oh
culture.
my gosh,
I
so
didn't
funny.
realize like American culture like is everywhere. So I was like, you guys have
Right.
Biggie? You guys have
Yeah.
Tupac? you
Yeah.
know?
It was so crazy. This guy was really like, he was like, you guys know Biggie down there? I was like, yes. Like, you do realize that
Oh
Australia does
man,
know a little something about pop
that's
culture.
funny. That's hilarious. That was how it started. I messaged you on Snapchat, and then it was a lot of messages at the time. Remember? It was just
Yeah,
all
but I don't
text.
think it wasn't an instant thing. Like it wasn't like
No,
from that first message things popped off and it was magical and oh my gosh, we want to get
right.
to know each other. It was kind of just like a back and forth of, well, because for me, this is when Snapchat was, the best thing. This is way
Right.
before IG stories came out
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I was using Snapchat purely for the purpose of promoting my channel and my videos and just engaging with my audience.
Right.
So it wasn't necessarily like I wouldn't respond to every single message that I got. I mean, sometimes I would, but a lot of the times, I'm not gonna lie, there's like some shady people on there.
For
So I
sure.
wouldn't always respond, but I think for you, you would consistently respond to my stories
I
whenever I
remember.
would
Yeah.
post like something.
Yeah. For me, I remember why you told me why you responded back.
Yeah, one day I told you the story of why I chose to respond back. Because, like I said, I didn't always respond to everybody. But the reason why I chose to respond to Alan was because in his display name, like his username, there was a little Filipino flag, like the Filipino flag emoji.
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
instantly I was like, oh, if anybody doesn't know, we're both Filipino. I'm half,
Right.
Alan is full. So as soon as I saw that flag, I was like, oh, it's a fellow Filipino. Like, let me just respond. Like, I feel like it's natural. Like, if I see a Filipino flag, I'm like, hey, like
Oh,
that's
he's
a
a
fellow.
fellow Filipino. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's
And
what.
my dumbass didn't know you were Filipino at all. I had no clue. I was like, oh, she's just pretty. I just didn't know what race she was. She's Australian. Is that what Australians look like?
Oh my
I
gosh.
had no clue.
I think it was about maybe like 6 or more or a year or more after we'd
It
started
was a
talking.
while.
that you actually found out like what my ethnic background was, and you were like, "What?
Yeah.
Like you're Filipino?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like,
Yeah.
what did you?
Yeah, so
Oh.
for a while I had no clue, and again we were like going back and forth, just
Mhm.
you know, looking at what you're doing, messaging that,
Yeah.
and for me, I use Snapchat mainly for family reasons because I'm here in the East Coast, all my family's in the West Coast, and it's like
Mhm.
easy for them to like see what I'm doing and catching up with me and my daughter, and
Mhm.
I remember the time where you even started looking at my um, Snapchat is
Your
because
story.
we
Well,
we went to Disneyland.
yeah, because
Yeah,
you would respond to things that I would post. I wasn't checking to see what I hadn't even followed you back.
yeah,
To
I know.
me, like not I know this sounds bad, but to me I was just like, "Oh, he's somebody who engages with my content and must have found me through my YouTube videos," which you did,
Right, I did.
but
Yep,
which I just want to say like that's crazy that
it is
that's how
insane.
you found me.
Yeah, and it wasn't like I was flirting with you or anything in the beginning either.
No,
So it was just
no,
like,
yeah.
and you had a boyfriend at the time,
I
remember?
was in a
So you were in a
relationship at the
relationship.
time. Yeah. So it wasn't like you were sliding into my DMs to say
Yeah,
what's up and I was like reciprocating some type of
yep.
energy. It was purely just you were interested in the fact that I was from Australia.
Well, that's one, and then another thing is your content on YouTube is all makeup and it's all
Mm,
creative stuff. Like I saw
yeah.
a vlog she did, and she was like painting. She was doing a lot of DIY. You were
Oh,
doing a
okay. Yeah.
DIY, and then you
Yeah.
were definitely doing makeup. And for me,
Makeup. Yeah.
I'm in the creative side of things, and I like when there's always like a process. So I was really interested in her channel, and I was starting to watch her channel all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much what
Yeah.
intrigued me in the beginning, aside from her
Yeah.
being really, really pretty. But
Uh, but yeah, like we were saying, going back to how we even started talking on a regular basis was the fact that, I don't know, you had responded to my story about something, and then you had mentioned the fact that you were going to Disneyland with your
yep,
family.
yep,
And I was like, oh my gosh, like I've always wanted to go.
right,
Like, I had never visited the US before. It's something that I wanted, it's on your bucket list, but
hmm,
obviously I think it's very natural for I can't speak on all Aussies, but it's like you want to go to see New York, you want to go to LA, you want to go to Disneyland, like all the main tourist attractions, right? So
true.
when he was like, I'm going to Disneyland, I was like, oh, that's so cool. I've always wanted to go there. And you pulled me in by saying, "Oh, well, if you add me, it'll be on my story like if you want to check it out." And it wasn't like anything flirty. It was like, "Oh, you can check it out on my
Yeah,
Snap story." I was like,
I
"Okay, cool. Let
literally
me just add you right quick."
I put
And
everything
that's
on my snap that day. Like she
yeah.
could see exactly where we went, what we
Mhm.
did, the rides,
Uh-huh.
the food,
Everything.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is how we naturally came together, and I think from the time when you first found me on YouTube to when I added you back and we were conversing just as friends, nothing more. It was just as a friendly conversation. Was probably
Yeah.
about a year.
And then we started talking regularly at the end of it.
Mm,
At the end of 2017 all the way to 2018. We just
yeah,
got to be like a daily habit, daily thing that we
yeah.
did.
I think once we realized that we had started talking to each other on a regular basis, it's only natural that when you're talking to somebody, it starts to become a part of your daily routine.
Right.
So we naturally started to integrate each other into our daily routines, and you have to take into consideration as well the time difference.
Yeah.
So if you would message me, I would wake up and there would be a message, or vice versa. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? So
Hmm.
yeah, that went on for a while. It was nothing romantic. It wasn't like we were trying to
Yeah.
get to know each other.
What I remember is just we had a lot of questions. We had
Questions,
plenty
yeah.
of questions,
Yeah.
and we got to know each other. And again, I don't know anyone from Australia, so I don't know the
Mhm.
culture there. So it was
Yeah.
just interesting to see what they're into and what they like. And I'm like, oh wow,
Mhm.
the internet really made the world really small because
For sure.
they're just like us.
Yeah.
They like the same stuff. they listen to the same music and
Yeah.
everything. I had no clue, so I was
Yeah.
really interested.
So I think it was more so just like a back and forth of like
Hmm.
responding to stories like, oh, that looks really cool. Like, oh, that looks awesome. I want to try that. Like that kind of thing. It wasn't anything romantic. But as I said earlier, naturally, when we started to converse more often and we had somehow integrated each other into our daily routines and we started to get to know each other on a more personal level,
Hmm.
I think that's when we started to realize like, oh, okay, what's going on here? Like, where is
Right.
this going? Like, I got to know you and I was like, this guy's actually pretty cool, but I didn't see anything coming of it. I didn't think like, oh,
Hmm.
I want to get to know him and I want something to come of it. I was just like, he's actually cool. Like, he's easy to talk to, has some really good goals and aspirations. Seems like a really nice and genuine, cool person, but I never thought that we would end up
Yeah,
engaged. Like,
I mean, you lived halfway around the world.
right,
We never knew until we,
right,
and until we started realizing, like, wow, she likes the same stuff that I like. Her values are the same. Her goals are lined up to mine, and that's pretty much what happened. It's like as we went along, we got to know what we liked, and it was just like in the
yeah,
same path.
yes. So I think for me, once I realized, like, oh no, I think I actually genuinely really want to get to know this person, or I feel myself. It was very confusing for me, right? Because
Hmm.
I had never experienced long distance or let alone getting to know somebody without knowing them in person. Like, you have to understand this is all purely through our phones. So
Yeah.
I was very confused thinking, this person's really cool and I feel like I want to get to know him more, but why do I feel like this? Because I've never met him. Like, this is very strange. It
Right.
was a very strange feeling to come to terms with. So during that point in my life, I was by myself. I was doing my own thing. I was focused on me, but at the same time, I would talk to you and I felt like, wow, if this person was here, I would love to get to know him. So I
Hmm.
think that's when I had to be straight up with you and
Right.
I had to be like, hey, I want to be honest and I want to tell you that I think you're really cool and I genuinely like you and I would love to get to know you more, but I don't see how this could be anything. So I'm going to have to cut you off.
Yeah, I was
Like,
like pretty devastated after that. I'm like, no, 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 no. Like
yeah.
I had a good time just getting to know her, and like I said,
Mm-hmm.
the values and everything else is aligned. So I was like, no, I definitely want to see where this is gonna go because I was also catching feelings at the same time, and I'm like, I know I could never find this anywhere else. So I'm like, no, I
Hmm.
have to continue this. So
Yeah, I
that's really
think
what happened.
right. So I think for me, I think just being like a grown woman, I had told myself I obviously was taking time to focus on me and who I was and growing and evolving
Hmm.
as a woman, but I had also told myself if I get into a relationship, not that I was looking, I
Yeah.
definitely was not looking for a
Hmm.
relationship, but if I ever do get into one, I'm not here to play games. Like, I will be
Right.
honest, I will be straight up. If I feel a certain way, I will say it. And even though I hadn't considered this as a relationship because it was all purely getting to know each other through our phones,
Yeah.
I had I had that feeling and I just had to be honest and be like, "Hey, I don't know how this is going to work, so it's either we're going to sit down and talk about our feelings and
Right.
try and come to some type of resolution, or I'm going to have to cut you off because I don't want to waste my time, I don't want to waste your
Right.
time, and I don't want to get into some like messy type of thing." So I don't know if that came off like as kind of aggressive. I didn't mean for it to come
It
off as
wasn't
aggressive, but
aggressive at all.
I was just looking out for myself, I guess. I
It
didn't
was
want to waste
definitely
time.
it was definitely straightforward, and I think for me, I'm not the one to initiate things. So like, if it wasn't for you to initiating that, then that nothing would have happened.
Oh,
So
we
like,
still would be talking and replying to each other's
still
Snapchat
be we would
stories.
actually still be texting, not even like
I
on the
know.
phone.
Oh my gosh.
Because
Yeah.
I do you remember how I got your number?
I think it
I
was
I do. I now I remember. I think you were
so
going
it
to
was
work.
It was something to do with, hey, I have a deadline for work, but I'm really tired. Do
Yes.
you think you could do me a favor because you were one to sleep through your alarms? You said, could you wake me
Yep.
up? I was like, okay. At this point, we've been talking for months, like
Yeah, months.
months and months. So I was like, okay, cool. But we'd never spoken on the phone.
We never did. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So I don't know if that was like some kind of tactic for you to try and get my
After
number.
that, I'm like, oh, okay, this was smooth.
Right,
Wow, that was
right.
really smooth. I didn't even know I was that smooth.
Right. No, but that is how you got my number, and that's how I remember I called you to wake you up at the time that you'd said, and you answered, and I was like, "Hey, I'm just waking you up." That was the first time we'd spoken to each other.
Right.
Obviously, also I should probably say we'd heard each other's voices, seen each other's photos, all that through stories, and you'd obviously watch me on YouTube,
Yep.
so it wasn't like awkward or unfamiliar. But yeah, we were just saying, I was saying like, hey, I'm waking you up. Your first reaction was like, oh my bad, I'll hang up because I know overseas calls are expensive. And I was like, no, no,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Right.
This is FaceTime audio. I called you on FaceTime
Right.
audio. And I think at that point, we stayed on the phone for the rest of the evening. I don't
I
think I
think
was
so
going to
too.
work that day. Yeah. While you
Yeah, we
worked.
we stayed on the phone. I I,
Mm-hmm.
I initially, for me, I know how Lizelle sounded, so like, okay, well, I don't need to hear her voice because it's all on YouTube. But for me, I hated how I sound on the phone or just my
I
voice. So I
remember
was like,
you telling
I
me
don't
that.
really want to be on the phone with her. I could just be on text. But for her, we got on the phone. I'm like, all right, well, we're on the phone now. There's no
Yeah.
turning back. We might as well just be on the phone instead
Right.
of
So
texting
that's
all the
how,
time.
exactly. So that's how we progressed to talking on the phone and then eventually FaceTime. You want to
Yeah,
tell them the
FaceTime
story
for
about
sure.
FaceTime?
Well,
Actually, there's something that comes before that,
yeah, we
deciding to
the
meet.
yeah, initially you was like, you know what are we doing here? Like
Yeah.
what are
Mm-hmm.
we doing here? Are we just getting to know each other, or I'm gonna just, if you're not straight up with me, I'm just gonna go. So I'm like, all right, well, let's get to know
Yeah, I
each
was like, I'm
other.
about to cut you off because I don't want to waste my time. I at least
Right.
had the respect to tell you I
Yeah,
wasn't going
you
to
did.
ghost you, you
Right.
know?
You could have. It would have been so easy.
I know.
Yeah. So what happened is we went through that, and
You had said, "Let's continue. I want to try and figure out what this is because I
right.
feel there's something here."
Mm-hmm.
Even though we had absolutely no idea. It was like, "Okay, so we've just told each other that we do have some type of feelings towards each other," which again is confusing because we've never met.
Right.
But from then it was confusing again because it's like, well, what do we do about it? Like,
Right.
how could we ever possibly meet? How would this ever work? How does this even come to fruition?
Yeah.
I think from there it was like, well, we're going to have to meet.
We're
Like
gonna
we
have to
that's the
meet.
only way to figure this out is we're just going to have to meet.
Right. So we set. You were like, let's go meet. Let's pick a date. And we didn't. We booked it like what, 6 months ahead.
Yes, because it wasn't like a okay, so let's meet like next month.
Next
Let's
month.
get to
Yeah,
it
we
next month.
couldn't.
It was like a, okay, let's look at your calendar. When can you take time off? When can we get some vacation days
Right.
in? When can we sort this out? Because, obviously we both had responsibilities and obligations for our
Right.
own lives. It's not like we can just drop everything and go have a romantic story happen halfway across the world. And we
Right.
had to, shuffle some things around. So for us, when we were picking a date, you said, how about your birthday? My birthday's in
Mm-hmm.
January, and I think we had been talking or picked the dates back in July, August.
Yeah,
So
something like
that's
that.
like 5, 6 months in advance that we
Right.
were like, let's figure out. And we were deciding where we were going to meet,
Right.
remember?
Yep, I
And
remember.
it was a process of like, oh, you want to come here or should I go there? But I think we had decided we wanted to meet at a separate location. How do I put this? For me, I wanted to have a vacation and I thought it would be nice to go
Right.
to a place where we both weren't familiar with because there were no, I don't know how to explain it. Like it was just we just needed that bubble. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean? To
it
figure out
was
what
like
this was.
it was a new experience for both of us. You
Yeah.
know, a new place, new city, new
Mhm.
country,
Mhm.
and I even remember why I suggested Bali. We actually met in Bali,
Yeah, we met in
and I
Bali.
suggested to go to Bali because when we were doing our bucket list at one point, you were saying I want to go to Maldives, I want to go here, and I
Mm.
remember you saying Bali, and I'm like, you know what,
Yeah.
let's go there. And for
Yeah.
me, another thing I said, why, if I'm gonna go to a vacation and meet a beautiful, woman, why not meet in paradise, And
Aww.
I honestly was like, and what pushed me even more is like over here, the winter. Remember, the winter here
Yeah.
is about over like 6 months.
Yeah, your
So
winters
I was
last for
like, you know what?
ages.
January is freezing here. I need
Mhm.
somewhere tropical to go and hang out and be there for like a
Mhm.
week and just relax and get to know her and have a good time. So we
Mhm.
decided to go there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it took us 6 months. Within that 6 months of waiting, that anticipation of going to Bali was pretty crazy because
It
every day
was.
we were doing you had a countdown, remember?
I had a countdown. I did. But I think it was actually really beneficial for us to have
Yeah,
that period of time between when we'd established, like, okay, this is something and we want to see where it goes, to actually meeting, because it allowed us to have more time to get to know each other on that new level.
right.
Because when you're getting to know somebody on a friendship level, that's different to when you're getting to
Hmm.
know them on a more romantic level.
Right,
So, from leveling up from friendship to being like, okay, this is something, let's get to know each other again, it's like an elevated sense of, as I said, like getting to know each other. So, I feel like for us, it really benefited us because as much as we wanted to meet straight away, it really laid the foundations for what was to become our relationship and really getting
right.
to know each other. Yeah.
And mind you, we booked those tickets before we even got on FaceTime.
Oh,
So we
yeah.
this whole time we were texting and calling each other, but she don't
Yes.
really know if it was really me or not, if I'm catfishing her or anything
Mm-mm.
at
Yeah.
all. Like,
Well, I mean, I would like to think that I'm a pretty street smart, savvy type of woman, but because I'd obviously seen you and your family
right, right,
on your social media. So it
right.
wasn't like all I had was like a dingy photo and I was like, this is the man that I'm going to
I'm
be.
gonna meet, right.
Right.
By that time
So
you seen like my whole family, yeah.
exactly, exactly. So it wasn't like I didn't know who I was meeting. I like to think I'm pretty smart. So
Yeah, you are.
one day I had said that I we should jump on FaceTime. But
Yep.
you were hesitant, and you want to tell them why you were
Yeah,
hesitant?
I, for me, because I seen her on YouTube so much, I'm like, well, I know how she looks like, and my reason was like, well, I just want to be surprised when I first meet her in the airport. So I was like, I can't wait for that day. Yeah, no, that was like the worst
The worst
decision or even,
excuse
yeah,
ever.
excuse.
So his
It was
excuse was,
horrible.
"Oh, I want the first time like when we actually see each other face to be face to face, like in person." I was like, "I'm trying to find out if you're really real, if I'm with a catfish or not. Like I needed
Right,
to know because you know what they say, MTV's Catfish, that show. The number
right,
one thing they say is if they don't want to get on FaceTime, if they don't want to get on video call,
right.
something's up."
Yeah, so we hopped on FaceTime, and then after that we
Eventually,
just,
yeah.
I think we got to know each other even more. I think every single level we got to know each other even
Yeah,
more.
it definitely was not a rush process.
No.
We took it really slow, even in terms of getting to know each other. It wasn't like you found me online and straight away you were sliding in the DMs wanting to get to know.
Right.
No, it wasn't like that at all. It was a very slow process
So slow.
from getting to know each other, surface level, to friends, to
Yeah.
developing feelings,
Mhm.
to eventually deciding that we were going to meet. It was a really slow process.
Really
And
slow.
I actually, like, I'm grateful for that
Yeah.
because it really did benefit us in terms of getting to know each other. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like in this day and age of things being so fast paced and quick and people wanting microwave results, it really was us purely getting to know each other on the inside. I know it sounds corny, but like getting to know each other's souls and like who we are as people as opposed
Right.
to external actions.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's a lot easier that way. And it was definitely a new experience for me as well, like getting to
For
know
sure.
somebody like that. But I feel like I really let you in and I let you get to know me for who I am as a person, and I like to think vice versa as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even for me, I wasn't like Lizelle opened me up to a lot of stuff. Like I wasn't even like no one asks you how you feel. Like she'll ask me every day like how are you feeling. I'm like at first it was, for the longest time it was so weird for me
Yeah, I remember you
because I'm
saying
like
that.
really no one really asked this type of questions. And when she started asking me these questions and I got used to it, I'm like, oh, okay, I understand where you're coming from now. It makes sense.
I think you just weren't used to being able to open up about how you were feeling about
For
things and
sure.
actually having somebody
Someone to listen.
listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really why. It was so different from what I've ever experienced, not just relationship wise, but, you know, parents, siblings, everything,
Hmm.
cousins. Just no one really cared enough to know how you feel.
Yeah. So I think that time that we took, all that time that we took getting to know each other was really beneficial to
For sure.
who we were, like who we turned to become as a couple.
Yep.
And yeah, I can't put a fault to it. It's been a journey, but I wouldn't change a thing.
Me
Like,
neither.
yeah.
It was quite a journey.
Yeah. So from there, we obviously officially met
Yep.
in January of 2019 in Bali, and it was such a, I don't want to sound corny with it, but it was such an amazing experience
It was.
because I wasn't, it's not that I was scared. I mean, for me flying over there like by myself, I want to reiterate the fact that as women, like we should be careful about what we're
Right.
getting ourselves into, but I was very smart in knowing what I was getting myself into. Although I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell
I
anybody that I
remember
was flying over
to
there.
meet a
I didn't,
guy.
well, I told people that I was going there, but I didn't say for what reason was to
Right.
meet somebody. It was kind of like, I just want to go there solo trip for my birthday. Now, people were
Right.
like, okay, cool, have fun with it. But the reason why I chose not to tell anybody is because I did not want that outside judgment on what I wanted to do. I didn't want any of that to affect my decision making process because I felt like this was something that I just needed to do. I just needed to see what it was. And I didn't want to have one of those like what if moments 50 years from now being
Mm-hmm.
like, what if I had decided to go and meet that guy, but I didn't because my friends and family were telling me it was a bad idea. Like I just knew it
Right.
was something that I had to do.
Right.
Yeah. So when we met, it was like, it was honestly like meeting an old friend or like
Yeah.
just meeting someone who you hadn't seen for a while. Or not
Right.
even that. We just clicked straight away. It was like
Yeah.
it didn't feel like we were meeting for the first time. It was
It was
such a
very
strange
organic
feeling. Mm.
and natural because we've been
Mm-hmm.
talking for about almost over a year
Yeah.
and we know each other's tendencies and likes
Mm-hmm.
and dislikes and
Mm-hmm.
music and things that we want to do. So
Yeah.
it was very natural, when we
Yeah.
first met.
Even yeah, it wasn't awkward at all. Even
No.
I know this is gonna sound funny, but like physically in terms of like when we hugged and held hands, like it just felt completely
Yep.
natural. Like that initial meeting in the airport, it was just yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. It just felt completely normal.
Yeah, that experience is definitely like I've traveled so much in different parts of the world, and I'd say the best trip I've had, hands down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We
Mm.
we've done so much in a short amount of time too. We just experienced a lot. that first trip.
Yeah, because it was not only us just taking time to get to know each other in person,
Right.
but it was also having some really cool, fun experiences as well
Yeah.
along the way. And we fit a lot in that
We
week.
did. We did.
Yeah.
We went snorkeling. We went to
Uh-huh.
go.
We went ATVing. We went
Yeah, we did.
river, like white water
Whitewater
rafting.
rafting. Yeah.
Yeah. We saw
Um,
turtles. We
we
held turtles.
big ass turtles,
I made you kiss a snake.
a snake, an iguana.
Right.
It was
It
crazy.
was
Like,
really
and
fun.
normally I'm like really fearful of like animals like that. And I would always like tell Azam, like, if she does it, then I'll do it, you know?
Yeah,
So
I was like jumping into the aquarium, like the pool with the
the pool
turtles. I
with the
was like, "Come on,
turtles.
babe, like let's
Those
go."
are some big ass turtles. I'm like,
He's like,
I ain't
"I
getting
don't
in there.
know."
They were chomping on it. We were feeding them. I'm like, oh, this is cute. We're feeding them. And she was like, are you guys ready to go in? I'm like, go in? What? And then
Or
she
the
was like, I'll
snake.
go in.
I was over here like kissing the snake, and I was like, "Come on, kiss it." And you're like, I don't
I'd always
know.
like touch the snake from outside, but like when they
Yeah.
wrap it around you, you could feel their bones. I'm like, I've never
Mm.
felt that before. I'm like, holy
Hmm.
crap. Well, if she does it and she didn't get bit, I'll do it.
Oh
So
my
that's the
gosh, I
only
was like
way,
the guinea pig.
pretty much. But I was just yeah, I was scared. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, so I think after that week, we, I mean, we already knew from the very second we met each
Yeah,
other in the airport on the first day, like, damn, okay, now we really got to follow through with this because this
right.
really is something.
Yep.
Since then, that was it. We knew that we're gonna make this work. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, whatever obstacles and hurdles we have to overcome, like, we're gonna do this.
Wait,
And
when you came when we both came back home,
yeah,
I was still like, okay, that was a cool trip. But
yeah.
again, Lizelle initiated it again. She was like, so when are we going to see each other again? Remember? Because I
Oh,
had no
yes.
clue. I'm
Okay.
like,
Because I was like, this man is about to give me the best experience of my life for a week. I'm never going to see him again. So I again I straight up was like, "Hey, we got to figure out when we're going to meet again because I'm
yeah,
not about to be over here lusting and like all in love and being like, okay, we told each other we wanted to make this work, but then us not knowing where this is going. Like, we need to have a
exactly.
plan. If you guys
Yeah,
know
this,
me, I'm a very
oh
organized,
my God,
plan
yeah.
type of person. Like, I'm a let me get everything in order, I'll get your life in order type of person. So I was like, we need to figure out how we're going to do this because this is not no, oh, we'll just see how it goes. We'll just go with it. No, we got
Exactly.
to figure it out.
Yeah,
So after that, when we got back home, I was like, let's plan it out. Like, if you're serious about it,
yeah,
let's plan it out. Let's see what we can do for at least 2019, like that year, to figure out when
yeah.
are we going to see each other again.
Yeah, I think we've, during that time, work and all that stuff, figuring out our schedule and finance and stuff, we were
Mm.
like, you know what, we could probably squeeze in. We literally did 3 trips that year. It was
We
three
did.
amazing trips.
Crazy. Yeah.
3 amazing trips.
Uh-huh.
The second trip was me going to Australia, my first time going
Mm-hmm.
there,
Yeah.
and that was insane. It took us like what, a couple months later, and we said, let's go to Australia. I'll go to Australia and see you, see where you
Yes.
live, and
I think it
experience
was
something
only
new.
about 3 months.
Is it
Oh,
three
no,
months?
4 months. I think you came here in May and then I
Mm.
went there in October. So
Yep.
it was about 4 or 5 months
Yeah.
between trips, between seeing each other. And yeah, that's where we took it from there. We saw each other whenever we could. We planned it out. I always
Yeah.
say in long distance relationships, it's really important to have a plan because for me personally, I don't feel like there's any point in being in an LDR if there's no exit plan. Does that make sense? So
Right.
in terms of like if we both knew that at the end of this we weren't going to physically be together, I wouldn't stay. There wouldn't
Right.
be like as much as I love you and you're an amazing person and I want to spend the rest of my life with you, if it's like this, we can't. It's just not
Right.
going to work that way.
It
You
wasn't
have
gonna work.
to, yeah, you really have to sit down in the beginning once we'd met and we'd established like, okay, this is a thing, we had to figure out like, okay, we live so far away from each other. How are we going to eventually be together? So we'd obviously established all of that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I always say there's no point in being long distance if there's no end goal, because there has to
Hmm.
be an end goal. But in the meantime, while working towards that end goal, you really need to have a plan of, okay, how are we going to make this work? How are we going to see each other? How often are we going to see each other?
Right.
Because it's really important, obviously. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. And after that, it's just, that's when we scheduled each other to see each other like 3, 4, 5 months apart
Yeah.
and just
Mm-hmm.
plan. And then like the last trip we had was 2020 when we got engaged. And
Mm.
again, we planned like 3 trips last year to meet.
We did. We were supposed to do the same thing again, like
Yeah.
see each other for, yeah, 3 times, but it didn't work out because of
No.
COVID. So in that situation, we just had to look at it, kind of pivot, readjust, figure out what we were going to do.
Right.
And to be honest, like the first year, I'm not going to lie, was difficult for me because
Mm-hmm.
I'd never been long distance, and being away from each other, I struggled with that a
Yeah, you
lot.
did.
But I think going towards the end of 2019, entering into 2020, I kind of
Mm-hmm.
was just more excited. I learned to become more excited with, looking forward to seeing each other. And then once the pandemic hit and it was like, you guys aren't seeing each other for a really long time,
Yeah.
I I don't know, I've been doing really well with it. I feel like it's not that I don't care. It's just once you realize something is beyond your control,
Right.
and you learn like, okay, I just really have to let go of it, because I know
Mm-hmm.
eventually we're going to get to that end goal of what we want. It's just we got to go over this speed bump for the time being, and that's okay.
Right.
Like, I'm just happy to enjoy our relationship for what it is now, and I'm super grateful that we're in the position where we're able to be the way that we are now, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, that's pretty much really caught up all the way till now. Like,
Pretty much, yeah.
yeah, the country shut down, the whole world shut down, and
Hmm.
we were kind of forced to. What I always tell you is like, you could just focus on what you can control.
Yeah.
So we were on our grind like this whole time.
Hmm.
We were just working really hard, and that's what we did. The
Yeah.
2020, and what I did actually, the crazy thing is before my last trip there last year,
Hmm.
we filmed one video, and Lizelle taught me how to cook a Filipino dish, sinigang.
Hmm.
And prior to that, I don't cook regularly.
Yeah.
So she taught me. I caught the cooking bug, and when I
Hmm.
came back and it was a pandemic, I was forced to like, my daughter stayed home
Learn
every
how to cook.
day, and I had to
Hmm.
like learn how to cook every single day.
Hmm.
And within that whole year last year, I I gained so much weight.
But it was only
So
natural. I think a lot of people
yeah,
experience that as well, you know. When we were all forced to stay inside, it was like, well, we were
yeah,
forced to do things that we didn't necessarily do before. But
right,
I think also the fact that because we weren't seeing each other, we knew we didn't have any trips coming up. We obviously had to put a little more effort into being creative with spending time,
we
quality
did.
time, that is, like quality
That's why
time
we cooked
together.
for
Yeah.
sure.
So we would set up date nights where we would go out and buy the same ingredients. Like, we'd figure out what we want to cook, list the ingredients, go out and buy it, and then we'd come home and we do like a date night or day because of the time difference. So, yeah, from there, I think that kind of brought us closer together as well and helped you with learning how to cook too.
Cooked a lot that
Yeah.
year. This whole last year, I
Mm.
just learned how to cook even more. And yeah, I just did tons of date nights
Yeah.
because that's all we could do at the time, and watched a lot of movies, a lot of series in
Yes.
Netflix party,
Yes. Yes.
and I
Hmm.
accumulated a lot of weight. And you know, I realized I'm like, you know what, we had to change. I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, it was still summer here, or it was just getting into summer.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I can just go out and work out and play ball outside. The gyms were closed, but I found a park that had a basketball court. I'm like, oh, I guess this is enough. And I didn't realize. Then it got cold, and I'm like, oh, I'm screwed. I can't work out anymore. So I really just cooked every day.
I think entering into 2021, because to be honest, I didn't think that the pandemic was going to change the course of our plans that much. Like, I still thought that we would still see each other perhaps at the end of last year. So once we got to the end of last year, I was like, damn, we're gonna reach like our 1 year anniversary apart and we're still not gonna see each other. So I think that as knowing that as well kind of forced us like, okay, let's switch up our routine and let's develop a routine just like you would if you were living together. You'd have a routine of how you do things. So for us, we've really developed a routine since the beginning of the year of making sure that we're eating better, doing more, staying active, getting moving, because 2020 was a very like confusing and stagnant year. I don't know about anybody else, but I wasn't really moving much. I canceled my gym membership like when the pandemic popped off and I didn't reactivate it. I mean, we were working out here and there from home, but I think this year, because we realized like this is not changing anytime soon, especially for me, because the borders of my country are still closed, I can't go anywhere. That's when we're like, you know what, let's just make the best out of this situation and let's really develop a routine for how we can do things. And I think that's how we started with the whole healthy eating. And you asked me to make you like a an eating plan and a workout schedule, and I was like, I want to do it with you too. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing is like I would literally go to grocery stores every week and walk around aimlessly. Like I didn't have a plan, and what people fail to do is they fail to plan. They don't plan to fail, they'll fail to plan. And for me, I work best when there's like a schedule, or there's, something I'm going to do A, B, C or D, it just it I work best when it's structured, So when you were able to give me a meal plan every single day, I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. That's pretty easy. And then and we integrated working out at the same time. So you have like a 2 week program,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much it. We started what 2 months ago,
Yeah.
and all that weight I accumulated all of last year, I got rid of.
Yeah, I'm so proud of you.
And the camera adds 10 pounds, but I might have gained it back. But just getting that off felt really good. I have a long ways to go, but it already feels good getting all that weight off from the pandemic last year. So getting rid of all that 2020 funk.
Yeah, that's it. I think a lot of people definitely did experience that. 2020 was a year that affected everybody. Doesn't matter if you were doing well or doing worse off, or it definitely affected everybody in some way or another. Yeah, as much as we could be sad about the fact that like, yay, we're celebrating our 1 year anniversary apart, I think it's something that we've come to accept, and it's not something to be bitter over because everybody has their own situation and way that they've been affected by the pandemic. So, yeah.
Right. They say they don't be bitter, be better.
That's it. Yeah. I think it definitely allowed us to grow and evolve not only as like individuals but also as a couple. You would think that being apart would make you grow apart, but I think for us it's actually brought us closer together, and our relationship has definitely evolved to another level. Obviously, we already knew what this was because we were engaged and we had plans, but I think at the end of the day, knowing that we're okay even in this situation and we function so well together as a team, and we know that we were and we are getting through this really well, just goes to show if we can go through this, get through this and come out better on the other side, we can get through anything together. So I think it really is just all about that perception and mindset of the way that you look at things. And I always say this, but this is like the number one thing that I love about you is the fact that you're just such a positive person. And that's definitely something that has rubbed off onto me over the years that we've known each other, is to look at things in a different light. Look at things like the glass is half full, not half empty, and look at the good parts. And I know that when a lot of people hear long distance, for me, I always get a lot of pity, like, oh, are you okay? Like, oh, that must be so hard. No, it's not. It really isn't. To me, I don't think like, oh man, I'm in a long distance relationship. This sucks. Like, I don't know. I don't want to sit here and say it's like the easiest. Obviously, it's not as easy as being in a regular relationship, but to me, it doesn't feel like work. It's like that saying that goes, find a job that you love so you won't feel like you have to work a day in your life. It's the same thing with this relationship. Even if we do find ourselves up against obstacles or hurdles that we have to overcome, it's not like I look at it and think, "Oh, I got to do this long distance relationship today." Like, you just do it and you enjoy doing it and you get through it and you do what you have to do. So I never want people to feel like, oh, I feel so bad for that person. They're in a long distance relationship. Or I don't want people in long distance relationships to feel like, oh, this long distance relationship sucks, because it really is all about your mindset and your perception as to how you look at things. Yeah. And that's, like I said, that's one thing I love about you. And that's definitely something that you have taught me over the years, is to really look at things in a more positive light. I've learned from you how to look at everything, pivot, rearrange, and analyze, and see what's the good that I can pull from that. So that's why we balance each other out. So, well, that's why you balance me out so well, because you bring that into my life, which is something that I was lacking.
Right. And that's exactly what you mean. Like what you said, it what balanced me out the most and what I learned the most from you is I didn't really have a lot of structure in my life. You know, I Lizelle's super organized. Like honestly, if it wasn't for her, I think my life would be all over the place. You know, I already
Mm.
know for a fact, like 1,000%, it'll be all over the place. And having her in my life is just it's effortless. Like everything is, you know, some we sit down and do our schedules and what we do, and we have goals. So it's so much easier knowing what you're going to do instead of walking around like again aimlessly, not knowing, no direction, no
Yeah.
goals. So
Mm.
like having her in my life just like I already know my future is going to be much better because I never had structure like that, and
Oh,
that's what I was missing.
yeah.
So that's why I appreciate her the most because I do all the stuff I wanted to do and still get to work and enjoy my time. You know, so that's the most
Yeah.
like what I love about her the most.
Mm. Thank you, love. I think that's really what relationships are all about, whether it's a regular relationship or long distance, is just you don't bring 50-50 to the table. You're not two halves, you're two wholes, you're both 100%. But if your partner is lacking in certain areas, if they're down a certain percentage, then you make up for that percentage that they're missing on and help them bring it up back to 100, or bring it up to 100, and help them grow and evolve to till they get to that point. So I feel like that's definitely what's happening in this relationship, and what has happened is we recognize our strengths and weaknesses within each other, and we help each other grow and evolve into into our best versions of ourselves.
Yeah, we balance each other out. Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
best way I could put it. We balance each other out. And there's things
Definitely.
that I lack and you are really good at, and vice versa. So that's why
Mm.
we work really well as a team. Like it, and the crazy thing too, I was telling her earlier. I'm like, I've never really been with anyone that was creative. You know, I've been involved in art my whole life, being in design and stuff like that, and seeing her do what she does is amazing to me. I'm like, wow. Like not everyone knows that she even edits her. Like remember before they were like, "You're did did your boyfriend edit your channel,
Yeah.
your YouTube channel? Like, no, I had nothing to, or our channel. Like, I had nothing to do with it. She does everything creative in our YouTube channel. And I'm like, well, yeah, she's great at what she does,
Mm.
and I've never had that before. So seeing that and see how much you grind and how creative you are is like, it's like new to me.
Aw.
And it's fun seeing you being creative. And I love creating new things with you. So
Yeah, I'm so happy that we get to do this together because, yeah, it's like you said, the podcast is something that you've wanted to do. And I didn't think we would start this till we lived together. But obviously, because of the pandemic, this season of our lives, we're like, you know what? Why wait? Like, let's just start it. So, this is how we can make it work. Like, where there's a will, there's a way. And we found a way to do it. And here we are. So we're super excited. Yeah, we're so excited for what's to come. I can't wait.
there's so much more. I mean, there's so much more that we're gonna give. And the best thing is, like, when we had that video when everyone was asking us so much questions about LDR or regular relationships. I just, this is a perfect platform for us to kind of engage and be in a community of people to talk about the hardships and what you guys do. Like, a lot of people were like, "Oh, I did that on my date night," or "I did that as well." So it's
Yeah.
fun to see people take our advice and communicate with
Yes.
us and let us know what they're going through as well. They're asking us tons of questions.
Yeah.
For everybody that is going to be on our YouTube channel, like, please ask us any questions you guys want,
Yeah,
about
definitely.
any LDR, what's working for us.
Hmm.
And as we go along, we're going to give you guys tips and pitfalls and great things about long distance relationships and relationships. So,
Yeah, so we'll pretty much just be giving advice and sharing our own personal story because yeah, I personally do get a lot of questions from people asking like help me or how do I do that? How do you do this? How do you manage it? How are you so okay? Like how do you stay happy? How do you do this? How do you do that? And like I mentioned earlier, it's all about perception and mindset, but I'm really excited that we have this platform to help other people who may be going through the same thing, but what we talk about isn't necessarily just for long distance. I feel like I don't think of this as oh, it's a long distance. Like, this is a relationship. Regardless of the distance and time between, it's still a relationship just as much as if we were sitting right next to each other right now. The same things that can go wrong in a regular relationship can go wrong in a long distance relationship and vice versa. I don't feel like there's any difference between it. It's just that, I mean, obviously, we don't get to see each other and we don't get to physically be together, but we're actually together a lot. Like we talk a lot, we're on FaceTime a lot. We're very blessed and lucky that our schedules allow us to be together a lot of the time whenever we want to. So, yeah, I'm just very thankful that we finally have this platform and it's a lot more suited to our personalities and very chilled and laid back. And yeah, I'm just really excited to help everybody out and talk about our story, tell our story, give advice, all of that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think that's about everything that we want to talk about for today's episode. It's a little bit of a lengthy one, but like I said in the beginning, this is more so just like a get to know us, listen to our story, our cheesy love story.
right.
Yeah, so is there anything else you want to say, love?
Nope, that's it. I think I would just want everybody to tune in. We're gonna be uploading on our YouTube channel every Tuesdays.
So after today, we have an episode coming every single week, and you can watch us on YouTube, like Alan said, or we'll be on whatever your favorite streaming services for podcasts, like Spotify, Apple, Google. We'll be on most of those. So if you want to just listen in, that's totally cool as well. But I think that's it. That's episode one.
That's
We
it.
did it.
It's in the books.
That's it. Yeah. So till next time, guys, thank you for spending part of your day with us. And that's us signing out.
Catch you guys next time.